and I was 7 months pregnant. At the time, they didn't. So I carried that child, knowing it was not going to survive.
Barbara Eden, the woman who once made the world fall in love with her mischievous smile in I Dream of Jeannie, is still remembered as an immortal icon of American television. On screen, she was the radiant genie stepping out of a magic lamp, bringing laughter and wonder to millions of viewers. But off-screen, Barbara lived a life marked by cracks and heartbreak, from a broken childhood in poverty to the years when Hollywood mocked her looks, to failed marriages, and finally the unbearable pain of losing her only son. From an early age, she had to learn how to endure turmoil. Her parents divorced when she was only 3, leaving her childhood adrift between her grandparents' house and temporary homes. Growing up in instability, Eden dreamed of escaping through music and acting. Yet even when she reached the gates of Hollywood, she was wounded by cruel remarks about her appearance. Still, with resilience and unshakable belief, Eden rose again, and her role as Genie catapulted her to stardom, making her a household name across America in the 1960s. Yet the spotlight could not erase the shadows of real life. Barbara once suffered a miscarriage when she was 8 months pregnant, falling into a depression that few at the time could understand. Her marriages unraveled one by one, leaving even greater emptiness inside. Then came the deepest tragedy. Her son, Matthew, long struggling with addiction, died of an overdose at the age of 35. It was a wound that tore apart a mother's heart, leaving her to live forever with grief and longing. Now, in her 90s, Barbara Eden still appears with a polished presence and a gentle smile, as if no storm had ever struck her down. But behind that smile lies a lifetime layered with loss, a journey that transformed a movie star into a legend, not only for her talent, but for her strength to remain standing through the most merciless tragedies of human life. Barbara Jean Moorhead was born on August 23, 1931, in Tucson, Arizona, a sun-scorched desert town in the American Southwest. It should have been the beginning of a peaceful childhood, but that sense of security was short-lived. At just 3 years old, Barbara watched her world collapse. Her parents divorced and the family home shattered in an instant. For a child, it wasn't simply adults parting ways. It was the sky falling down, an empty chair at the dinner table, long suffocating nights of silence, and a void too heavy for a tender soul to bear. Her mother took the little girl and left Tucson for El Paso, Texas, to live with Barbara's grandparents. In their cramped house during the Great Depression, food and clothing were never enough. But Barbara found something more precious than material comfort: the quiet, steady love of her grandfather. He became the father figure she had lost, a silent but unwavering source of strength. From his warm embrace and simple wisdom, Barbara learned her first life lesson. To survive, one must hold on to a fragile belief that every storm eventually passes, but even that fragile peace did not last. While Barbara was still young, her mother decided to leave Texas in search of new opportunities in San Francisco. There, Barbara gained a stepfather, a telephone company worker who was kind, but whose modest income could not lift the family out of poverty. They squeezed into a small house with relatives, moved constantly, and Barbara ended up changing schools 5 times during her teenage years. Hardship taught her to grow accustomed to doing without. No pretty clothes, no stable home. Yet even in the midst of want, she still found joy. She remembered afternoons skating along the waterfront in the ocean breeze, while her stepfather sat quietly fishing. These small, saving moments planted a belief deep inside her that even in adversity, joy and dreams could still be found. Music came to Barbara not as a destined career, but as an emotional escape from her fractured childhood. The small girl found comfort in singing. Whenever she felt sad or lonely, Barbara would lift her voice, sometimes softly in that poor Texas home, sometimes bright and lively on the schoolyard. Her mother, who understood the weight of her daughter's losses, not only refrained from discouraging her, but actively encouraged her. She took Barbara to her first lessons, believing that music and the stage would help the girl grow stronger. When they moved to San Francisco, that artistic path widened. Barbara studied at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, training formally in vocal performance. She also studied acting at the Elizabeth Holloway School of Theater, where she first stepped onto small stages, slipping into characters to forget her natural shyness. At the same time, at City College of San Francisco, she built up her academic knowledge, shaping herself into a more complete artist. Those years were difficult, but they planted the seeds of a lifelong passion. Barbara knew she had been born to stand before an audience. Even so, despite her talent and passion, Barbara remained a shy young woman. That is why, in 1951, when a teacher suggested she try a beauty contest to build confidence, Barbara took a chance. The pageant was Miss San Francisco. What no one expected, the trembling girl before the crowd suddenly shone, capturing the crown. That victory was more than a title. It was a turning point. It helped her overcome her self-doubt, proving she could command both the stage and the public's gaze. More importantly, from that moment, the path to Hollywood came into view. But the Dream Factory was never easy. Barbara herself once recalled an anecdote. At her first meeting, a Warner Brothers talent scout coldly crushed her hopes, bluntly saying her looks did not meet screen standards. The cruel rejection cut her deeply, making all her efforts feel meaningless. Yet fate is fickle. Just 6 months later, that very same scout returned to seek her out, inviting her to a screen test. The sudden reversal not only revealed the harsh, capricious nature of Hollywood, but also stood as proof of Barbara's resilience, a beauty unwilling to let others' judgments define her. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, Barbara slowly, patiently built her name. She appeared in a string of hit series like Gunsmoke, Father Knows Best, Perry Mason, and I Love Lucy. Each role was just a guest appearance, brief on screen, but Barbara never treated them lightly. She used every moment to leave an impression, turning even the smallest characters into memories that lingered with audiences. Step by step, the name Barbara Eden began to stick, not as a fleeting face, but as an actress quietly carving her place. Her ambitions stretched beyond television. Barbara also sought opportunities in film, with her most notable role of the time coming when she was cast opposite Elvis Presley in Flaming Star, 1960. Playing the love interest of the king of rock and roll, Barbara not only displayed her range as an actress, but proved she could stand alongside the biggest names of the era. The film became a milestone, moving her from the ranks of promising newcomer closer to being one of Hollywood's truly recognized leading ladies. Barbara's true breakthrough came in 1965 when NBC decided to launch a new sitcom, I Dream of Jeannie. At that time, Eden had already made a few impressions in television and film, but she was still considered just a familiar face. The role of Genie felt like a gift of destiny. After only a few episodes, she skyrocketed almost overnight into a nationwide phenomenon. Throughout its 5-season run from 1965 to 1970, American audiences couldn't take their eyes off the tiny Genie who sprang from an ancient bottle, with her mischievous wink, pure smile, and magical antics that were both endearing and mischievous. Eden's image in her sparkling pink costume was etched into the memory of American television, becoming one of the cultural icons of the 1960s, standing alongside Bewitched or Gilligan's Island. With this role, Barbara Eden officially left behind the ranks of promising actress to step into the status of a living legend. Yet that brilliance came with hidden turmoil. One of the biggest controversies stemmed from Genie's very costume. At the time, American television was still deeply conservative about women's appearances. The network imposed a rule so strict it bordered on absurd. Barbara Eden could wear a revealing outfit, bare her shoulders and her midriff, but she was absolutely forbidden to show her navel. Even the slightest curve of her lower stomach was deemed too provocative for family audiences. To comply, the costume team had to redesign the entire outfit, adding layers of sheer fabric and adjusting every seam to conceal that sensitive detail. Barbara later recalled that she felt both amused and bitter at the absurd strictness of the era. A tiny detail, her navel, suddenly became a battlefield between creative freedom and the rigid moral codes of television. Ironically, that very controversy made Genie's image even more distinctive. Eden, in a costume that was both alluring and forcibly modest, unintentionally became a symbol of the tension between tradition and modernity, between constraint and the desire for freedom. Audiences saw in her not only an innocent, playful character, but also a subtle challenge to the limits society placed upon women. The relationship between Barbara Eden and Larry Hagman was one of the most fascinating and complicated aspects behind the scenes of I Dream of Jeannie. On screen, they were the perfect pair, the mischievous Genie and the exasperated astronaut. Their seamless chemistry and witty exchanges convinced millions of viewers they were born to act together. But behind the bright studio lights, the story was entirely different. Larry Hagman was a brilliant actor, but also a restless soul. He sank into alcohol, drugs, and fits of inexplicable rage. More than once, Hagman erupted on set, smashing props and openly expressing dissatisfaction with the scripts. His volatility forced the production team to consider removing him in order to preserve stability. And yet, it was Barbara Eden who shielded her co-star. With rare patience and understanding, she saw beyond the outbursts to the dazzling talent underneath, an artist capable of turning an ordinary scene into classic comedy. Eden not only counseled Hagman, but also personally persuaded producers and the crew to keep him on. She believed that without Hagman, the show would lose its soul. In the memories of many colleagues, it was Barbara Eden's trust and steadfastness that saved Hagman and also preserved I Dream of Jeannie for audiences. Thanks to their partnership, the show didn't just become a passing fad, but an enduring classic, forever imprinted in the cultural memory of America across generations. When I Dream of Jeannie ended in 1970, many believed Barbara Eden would forever be typecast as the mischievous Genie. Some colleagues even predicted her career would struggle to move forward, since so few actors ever escaped the shadow of an iconic role. But Eden proved them wrong. She refused to let the past define her and continued working tirelessly, expanding her career with a wide variety of television projects. In 1971, Eden reunited with Larry Hagman in the TV movie A Howling in the Woods. Although it didn't cause the same sensation as Genie, the sight of the two stars together again was warmly welcomed by audiences. That same year, she appeared in The Feminist and The Fuzz, a situational comedy reflecting the social atmosphere of the era. The role showed Eden's versatility, proving she wasn't just a one-note genie, but an actress fully capable of tackling diverse genres. By the late 1970s, Barbara Eden surprised the public once again with the success of Harper Valley PTA, 1978. The feature film, based on a hit country song, drew significant attention and was soon adapted into a television series, 1981-1982. Eden carried the lead role throughout, portraying a sharp, bold woman ready to confront social prejudice. The series lasted 2 seasons, clear proof of Eden's star power and ability to lead an entire show. It marked a pivotal moment, showing she could succeed outside Genie's shadow and maintain her own place in the hearts of audiences. Beyond starring roles, Barbara Eden remained a steady presence on American television through countless appearances, variety shows, popular talk shows, and guest roles in hit series. Wherever Eden appeared, viewers felt a sense of familiarity, like welcoming back an old friend into their living rooms. She became a family face, an integral part of American TV culture, always radiating warmth and trust. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Eden built the image of a tireless television star, always radiant, consistently professional, and unafraid to try new roles. No part ever eclipsed the influence of her legendary Genie, but her dedication, steady presence, and natural charm made her one of the essential figures of American television across those 2 decades. As the 1990s began, while many of her contemporaries were retiring, Barbara Eden continued to appear before audiences. She was no longer on screen as frequently as during her peak, but each return reminded the public of a symbol that never faded. In 1991, Eden delighted fans with the TV movie I Dream of Jeannie, a special continuation, her way of honoring the role that had made her a legend. Though it never matched the original's impact, it reaffirmed that Genie and Barbara Eden were inseparable, and the public was still eager to welcome her back anytime. Eden also participated in other notable projects. She appeared in Dallas and later in a guest role on the sitcom Sabrina the Teenage Witch, 1999, surprising and delighting younger audiences who suddenly saw the Genie of a bygone era step into a modern magical world. These brief appearances were enough to remind everyone that Eden had never disappeared from American cultural memory. Outside the screen, Barbara Eden often took part in special programs, reunions, and talk shows, revisiting memories of I Dream of Jeannie. Each time she appeared, crowds cheered as though meeting a piece of their own childhood. Eden embraced and honored that legacy, unlike many actors who feared being typecast by a single role. At the same time, she explored theater. Eden performed in Broadway productions and joined musical tours across the United States. Her charm, voice, and stage presence made her a standout attraction, drawing audiences to theaters even though her heyday was long past. All of this kept Barbara Eden vibrant in the artistic world, not only a golden memory of the 1960s, but also a resilient performer who never stopped giving. Even in her 80s, Barbara Eden did not retreat behind the curtain as many of her peers did. She kept finding new ways to connect with audiences, those who had followed her for more than half a century, from the era of black and white TV to the age of social media. In 2011, Eden published her memoir, Genie Out of the Bottle. Upon release, the book quickly climbed bestseller lists, not only thanks to her legendary role, but also because of its rare candor. On its pages, Eden poured out her life, a broken childhood after her parents' divorce, marriages filled with sorrow, and above all, the devastating pain of losing her only son to drugs. With no makeup or stage lights to shield her, the book painted a raw, painful portrait, a courageous confession of the tragedies she carried through life. Its honesty made it a phenomenon, touching readers' hearts like a whisper. Behind the glitter, that star was human too. Alongside writing, Barbara Eden maintained a steady public presence. She became a familiar face at fan conventions and reunions where admirers could meet the Genie of their youth in person. She frequently appeared on talk shows and TV programs, sharing behind-the-scenes memories and stories of joy and sorrow from her career. Even at an age when many would rest, she showed no loss of charisma, her smile still stirring the same emotion as before. In 2020, Eden surprised fans with her appearance in the web series Master Dearest from the Diaries of Genie. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it was a nostalgic touch, bringing the Genie character into a new era and reminding audiences that Barbara Eden was still here, still eager to join the fun with a younger generation of performers. In 2023, she was honored with the Legend Award at the National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards. Wearing a dazzling red suit, Eden walked on stage with confidence, her eyes shining as though time had never touched her. The image spread quickly through media and social networks, reminding the world that the Genie still stood proud and radiant. At an age when many peers had long since retreated, Barbara Eden continued to face audiences with pride and gratitude. She did not live solely on memories of past glory, but chose to keep writing her own story. And in doing so, Eden ensured that Jeannie remained an ageless icon, belonging both to the past and vibrantly alive in the present of American culture. As Barbara Eden's career expanded, audiences saw a radiant figure on the small screen, from I Dream of Jeannie to her later television projects. Yet behind the dazzling lights, her private life weathered many storms, and it all began with her first love, Tony, the man who left behind scars she would never fully erase. They met when Eden was still a young woman, just starting out in show business and still bewildered by Hollywood's glittering world. Tony, a delivery man, appeared as a haven of calm. He gave Barbara a sense of protection and simplicity, the very things a young girl in the throes of first love longs for. Awkward dates and seemingly innocent promises quickly convinced Eden that this love would become the safe harbor she could depend on. But reality proved far harsher than the fairy tale dreams. Tony gradually revealed his instability, a hot temper, unreasonable jealousy, endless arguments. Eden, too young then to know how to confront it, endured in silence, clinging to the hope that love would eventually change him. Instead of peace, she lived in constant fear, as if storms could break out at any moment, even in the most tranquil hours. The breaking point came when Eden decided to end the relationship. Tony refused to accept it, and in a moment of despair, he phoned her to confess that he had just attempted to take his own life. In that terrifying instant, Eden, together with Michael Ansara, then just a fellow actor, rushed to his side in time, saving Tony's life. The tragedy was averted, but the shock left Eden with a fracture that would never heal. She realized her first love was no longer love at all, but a dangerous spiral that could destroy them both. The collapse of that first romance left Barbara Eden with deep psychological wounds. She fell into despair, at times even contemplating ending her own life. But from that abyss, Eden drew a bitter lesson. Love, if it does not bring peace, cannot save anyone. She walked away, carrying silent scars, but also emerging stronger and more mature, strong enough to step into her next great love, her marriage to Michael Ansara. He would become not only her colleague and husband, but also the witness to both the joys and the profound tragedies of her life. After breaking free from the haunting relationship with Tony, Barbara Eden stepped into a new chapter of her life, this time with a man she believed would be her safe haven. That man was Michael Ansara, a television star best known for his lead role in Broken Arrow. They first met through a blind date arranged by friends, and Barbara was immediately drawn to Michael's calm, intelligent demeanor, so different from the volatility she had just endured. To Eden, Michael seemed like a steady shoulder to lean on. To Michael, Eden was not only a rising star, but also a fragile woman who needed protection. It didn't take long before the two became inseparable. In 1958, Barbara and Michael were married. The ceremony was modest, but for Eden, it marked a new beginning. Their early married life brimmed with happiness. They supported each other's careers, shared laughter both on set and at home. Michael was her constant encourager, and Eden took pride in having a husband who was both successful and grounded. The greatest joy came in 1965, when Barbara gave birth to their first son, Matthew. At the very moment I Dream of Jeannie was turning her into a national star, Matthew became the true light of her life. She often said that the instant she held her baby in her arms, she finally felt she had the complete family she had longed for since childhood, after losing that sense of wholeness when her parents divorced. But fate dealt a cruel blow. In 1971, while pregnant with their second child, Eden received devastating news. The baby had been stillborn at 8 months. The shock crushed her. Yet under the studio lights, she had to bury her grief and continue playing the bubbly Genie so that audiences would never glimpse the tears behind her makeup. Later, she admitted that she had fallen into postpartum depression, a condition scarcely understood by society at the time. The loss carved a deep fracture into Barbara and Michael's marriage. They tried to regain their footing, but the silent tragedy slowly ate away at their bond. Michael threw himself into work, while Barbara grew increasingly fragile, irritable, and mistrustful. Arguments became more frequent, and the silence that followed each fight only underscored how far apart they had drifted. By 1973, the marriage that had once seemed so solid collapsed. Eden filed for divorce, ending 15 years together. To the public, it was just another Hollywood divorce. But for Barbara, it was a bleeding wound. She didn't just lose her husband, she felt she had lost yet another chance at the family she had always craved. The pain was magnified knowing that Matthew, her only child, would now have to grow up between two households. Eden later admitted that had she known the emotional scars divorce would leave on her son, she might have chosen to stay, at least until Matthew was grown. Even after their separation, Michael and Ansara continued to hold a special place in Barbara Eden's life. Together, they faced the dark years of Matthew's struggles with addiction, sharing moments of hope followed by crushing despair. Bound by their son, they remained connected through a journey that was equal parts love and heartbreak until the very end. If Barbara Eden's marriage to Michael Ansara left her with bittersweet echoes, joys of motherhood intertwined with the haunting grief of losing a child, then her second marriage to Charles "Chuck" Fagert opened a new chapter that began with hope but quickly unraveled into turmoil. Barbara met Charles in the late 1970s, by which time she was already a well-known television star, while he was a media executive with wide connections and a polished, sophisticated manner. At their first meeting, Fagert offered Eden a completely different impression, not the artistic temperament of Ansara, but that of a seasoned businessman who knew how to charm, reassure, and convince her she could lean on him. After so much heartbreak, Barbara longed for a strong and stable shoulder, and Fagert seemed to embody exactly that. In 1977, they married. At first, married life felt like a new beginning. Fagert gave Eden special attention, accompanied her to events, and presented himself as a supportive partner who understood her painful past. Yet the peace did not last. Behind closed doors, Barbara gradually discovered another side of him. Fagert carried deep-seated instability, from a volatile temper to a complicated lifestyle. Quiet tensions about family matters, about professional clashes, began to surface. Barbara, already scarred by past suffering, tried to hold on to the marriage. She hoped that this time, love and patience could help her build a lasting home. But the harder she tried, the more exhausting it became. Instead of safety, Fagert gave her growing discord and emotional distance. They had no children together, a void that deepened Eden's yearning for a complete family, but only left her feeling more unfulfilled. By 1982, after 5 strained years, the marriage officially collapsed. Eden left Fagert with a heavy heart, once again disillusioned in her faith in love. She later admitted that those years were among the darkest of her life. The memories of losing her child and the wounds of her first marriage had not yet healed, and now another layer of disappointment weighed upon her. If her first love with Tony had left the scars of youthful heartbreak, and her marriage to Ansara had brought her the deepest grief of loss, then with Fagert, Eden experienced a different kind of suffering. The emptiness of realizing that sometimes love is only an illusion, and no amount of effort can change the course of fate. After 2 tumultuous marriages, Barbara Eden once thought her heart no longer had the strength to believe in a new refuge. The successive losses, her broken marriage to Michael Ansara, the devastating death of her son Matthew, and the disappointment of leaving Charles "Chuck" Fagert had led her many times to close herself off. Yet fate still brought her another chance when she met John Eichholz, an architect and real estate investor. They met in the late 1980s at a charity event, where Eden was a guest of honor and John one of the sponsors. Amid the noisy crowd, Eden was struck by his calm, steady demeanor. Without flash or pretension, Eichholz radiated the quiet sense of peace she had long yearned for. As their conversations continued, Eden quickly realized he didn't care about the fame of television star Barbara Eden, but saw in her a woman scarred by loss, in need of care. Their relationship grew slowly, so different from the whirlwind romances of her past. Eden later admitted that what moved her was not sweet promises, but John's way of listening, patiently, without judgment, enough for her to share her most painful memories without fear of being hurt again. In 1991, they decided to marry. It wasn't a glittering Hollywood wedding, but a warm, simple ceremony attended only by family and close friends. In her 50s, Eden entered this third marriage not with naive dreams, but with a heart broken many times over, now only hoping to find true peace. Life with John Eichholz had none of the noisy quarrels or violent dramas of her past marriages. They had no children together, a void that often pained Eden since the loss of Matthew never stopped haunting her. But John became her steady anchor, the man who stood by her through the darkest days after Matthew died of an overdose. In a 2021 interview, Eden said with tears in her eyes, "John was the shoulder that kept me standing. Without him, I could never have gone on." Matthew had first fallen into drugs at just 10 years old. Eden recalled how neighborhood kids lured him in with a few fun doses. That seemingly harmless experiment opened the door to hell. From a bright boy full of promise, Matthew slid into the spiral of addiction. Eden sent him to rehab many times, always hoping he could start over. But each attempt ended in heartbreak as he relapsed, sinking deeper each time. At times, Matthew was homeless, wandering the streets like a stranger. As much as it broke her heart, Barbara Eden was forced to practice tough love. She would not allow him to live at home while using drugs. It was a decision that shattered her, but she knew enabling him would only hasten the end. Their relationship grew strained, conversations rare, trust fragile. Yet deep inside, Eden never abandoned him. She continued to support him from a distance, bringing food, giving money when necessary, always waiting for a miracle to bring him back. But that miracle never came. In 2001, at just 35 years old, Matthew died suddenly of a heroin overdose. Just days before his wedding, at a moment when everyone believed his life was about to turn a new page. For Barbara Eden, the shock was like a knife through her heart. The son she had cradled and protected, the boy she believed would find a better future, was gone. She called it a pain that would never heal, a scar time itself could never erase. After Matthew's death, Eden did not retreat into silence. She began sharing her story, becoming a voice for parents of children struggling with addiction. At conferences, in interviews, and through her memoir, Eden never hid her tears. But she believed speaking out could save other children, other families, from the same tragedy. Her private grief thus became a public act of courage, so that Matthew's life would not end only in sorrow, but leave behind a legacy of warning for society. Of course, even her marriage to John was not without challenges. There were times when Eden was haunted by old memories, when grief and suspicion made her difficult to reach. But unlike Tony's anger or Fagert's selfishness, John chose patience and love. He never tried to erase her past, but learned to live with it beside her, turning pain into part of their shared growth. Nearly 3 decades later, Eden and Eichholz remain side by side. He became the last man of her life, not because of fame or ambition, but because his love was calm enough to mend her deepest wounds. In her twilight years, reflecting on a storm-filled journey, Barbara Eden once said, "I have lost so much, but I've also learned that true happiness isn't found in perfection. It's found in a heart that knows how to forgive. Barbara Eden's losses did not end with love and children. They also came from those closest to her. After enduring the tragedy of losing her son, she faced another heartbreak when her mother, the only true pillar since childhood, quietly fell ill. Her mother battled lung cancer in silence, never complaining, enduring pain just to keep her daughter from worrying. When the illness finally claimed her life, Eden felt as if part of her own heart had been torn away. It was not only the death of a mother, but the end of a sacred bond stretching back to childhood, the anchor she had once clung to through her parents' divorce. That wound took years for Eden to soothe. Yet fate seemed never to stop testing her resilience. In 2025, Eden grieved again as she bid farewell to a dear friend in the entertainment world, Lonnie Anderson. The two women had shared a long bond, confiding in each other through joys and sorrows the public seldom saw. When Lonnie passed away, Eden chose to mourn openly on social media, writing heartfelt words about their enduring friendship and her deep gratitude for her late friend. In every line, people could see her sincerity and her grief. Proof that although she had grown used to performing on stage, she never grew accustomed to the farewells that awaited behind the curtain. In her 90s, Barbara Eden does not live quietly in the shadows of memory, but instead chooses to maintain a warm, simple life filled with pride. She now resides with her third husband, real estate investor John Eichholtz, and their playful labradoodle, Bentley, in a luxurious Beverly Hills home. It is a space that is both elegant and cozy, a sanctuary where Eden has finally found peace after all the storms she has endured. Despite her age, she continues to live with discipline and vitality. Eden exercises regularly, from daily walks to lightweight training to maintain bone health, and has even tried spinning. She pays close attention to her diet. Lean meats, vegetables, and fruits are staples, while sugar and sweets are kept to a minimum. Occasionally, she indulges in circus peanuts, a nostalgic candy from her childhood. When it comes to beauty, Eden embraces natural simplicity. She rarely wears makeup outside of work, relying instead on sunscreen and serums to keep her skin smooth and radiant well into advanced age. Her long career has also given her financial security, with an estimated net worth of around $10 million. Among her most treasured possessions is the original Genie bottle from I Dream of Jeannie. Rather than displaying it at home, Eden keeps it locked in a bank vault as a sacred relic tied to her legend. Even after more than 6 decades in the spotlight, Eden remains active in the entertainment world. She continues to appear at events, fan gatherings, book signings, and talk shows. In 2020, she reprised her Genie character in the web series Master Dearest from the Diaries of Genie, offering audiences a nostalgic spark. In 2023, she was honored with the Legend Award at the National Arts and Entertainment Journalism Awards, a formal recognition of her enduring career. And fans have never forgotten the moment she stunned the world in 2009, confidently donning the Genie costume at age 78, radiant and captivating as if no time had passed. Barbara Eden's legacy is not confined to the 5 seasons of I Dream of Jeannie, but represents a unique slice of American pop culture history. With her playful yet enchanting Genie, Eden became a television icon of the 1960s, standing alongside classics like Bewitched and Gilligan's Island. She proved that a single role can achieve immortality, so long as it captures the imagination and hearts of audiences. Her image in the pink costume, with that radiant smile and mischievous wink, remains part of America's collective memory. Her influence, however, extends beyond nostalgia. She became a testament to the adaptability of Hollywood women, navigating strict dress codes, overcoming gender expectations, and sustaining a career for more than 6 decades. At 78, she proudly wore her Genie costume again in public, instantly creating a media storm, a bold message that age can never imprison a woman's allure or pride. But perhaps her greatest legacy lies in the way she turned private pain into a shared lesson. Eden spoke openly about the tragedy of losing her son, not hiding from it, but using her story to support other parents facing a child's addiction. She showed that resilience does not mean denying suffering, but accepting it, sharing it, and transforming grief into strength. For this, Barbara Eden is remembered not only as a television star, but as a woman who lived fully, with both light and shadow, and had the courage to use her story to lift others. Barbara Eden's life reads like a long novel, its pages inked not only with glory, but with tears and silent scars. And yet, from those fractures, she emerged as a living testament to the pride and strength of a woman who never surrendered. Eden never chose silence or avoidance. She chose to stand tall, to smile, and to let time etch her image as an immortal icon. In a world of entertainment that constantly shifts, where stars rise and fade like the wind, Barbara Eden's presence is a reminder that some icons never vanish because they live not only to be admired, but to inspire. If you also believe Barbara Eden deserves to be called the forever Genie in your heart, leave a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe so we can continue sharing the stories of those who defined an era.